My stepfather said he couldn't pay for my medical treatment because I didn't have a future ahead of me. But I raised funds and got so much money that he wants me to share it. I, a 17-year-old, have a lifelong medical condition. I won't go into too many details, but it's something that requires constant treatment. And yes, it's expensive. Medications, doctor visits, occasional hospitalizations, it all adds up. My dad died when I was 5 years old. I don't remember much about him, just some flashes here and there. Mostly now he's just a face in photos. My mom, Grace, who is 40, didn't really talk much about him after he died, which I understand. It probably hurt too much. After he passed away, everything got difficult. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time, so she suddenly had to handle everything alone, raising me, getting a job, dealing with bills, and on top of that, managing my medical situation. I don't remember much from those years, only that there were many nights when she'd sit at the kitchen table with piles of papers, crying. But she did the best she could. She really did. Although sometimes I wonder if she holds some kind of resentment toward me. Not that she says it openly, but I don't know. It's like when she looks at me, I feel that weight, as if I'm the reason everything was so hard for her. She never said it, but actions speak louder than words, you know. A few years ago, she met my stepfather, Grant, who is 45. I guess he's okay. He's not a bad person, but he's not very affectionate either. He's more the provider type who works, and that's it. He's always treated me decently, but I wouldn't say we're close. He has a son, Justin, who is 20 and now in college. Justin doesn't live with us, but he comes over during holidays and breaks. For a while, everything was fine. My mom worked at a store, which wasn't the best-paying job, but she managed. My health was always a priority, and she made sure I had what I needed. But about 6 months ago, the store where she worked closed. She lost her job, and suddenly everything changed. At first, she looked for work everywhere, but nothing worked out. Then, little by little, she stopped looking, and now she just stays at home. For a while, even after she stopped working, she still managed to cover my medications, my appointments. Everything kept getting paid somehow. I don't know how she did it. Maybe she had savings, maybe she was borrowing money, but she never let me see how bad things were. Grant works, so we're not completely broke, but it's weird. I never thought of my mom as someone who would just give up trying, and this is where everything starts to feel wrong. When she was working, even though money was tight, I never felt like my medical expenses were a problem. But now I notice it. The way she sighs when she opens the mail, the way Grant looks at me when she talks to him about another bill. I knew we were tight since she lost her job, but I didn't realize how bad things were until recently. I've been on this treatment my whole life. It's not optional. It's not like I can skip a few months and be okay. If I don't get it, my health deteriorates quickly. It's expensive, yes, but it literally keeps me alive. That's why I was so shocked when she told me she could no longer afford my treatments. She told me not to worry, that she would talk to Grant and they'd figure it out. I don't know why, but I believed her. I guess I thought, well, he's my stepfather, right? He married my mom knowing I came as part of the package. He wasn't just going to say no. But he did. Later, she told me she asked Grant for help if he could cover my medical expenses just until she got back on her feet. She wasn't even asking him to pay for everything forever, just help for a while. And he said no. He didn't even hesitate. He told her it wasn't his responsibility, that the money he had was his, and that he was saving it for Justin. Because apparently Justin is the only one worth investing in. Justin is in college, and Grant wants to give him a head start in life once he graduates. So he's been saving money for him, making sure he has enough to start his career, maybe even help him get a place to live, or a car, or whatever. He said I was already 17 and that I should pay for my own medical treatment, that I should get a job and figure it out on my own, that it wasn't his problem or his responsibility. He said I wasn't worth the investment. He said Justin does have a future, and he said he was the one who really had something to look forward to. Basically, that I wasn't worth the money. I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose to have a lifelong medical condition. I didn't wake up one day and think, you know what would be fun? Being completely dependent on an extremely expensive medical treatment for the rest of my life. And now, because of something I can't control, I'm just not worth it. My mom told me she would try talking to Grant again. She said she'd try to convince him, or maybe find some way to get the money. She didn't say how, just that she'd see what she could do. But then she looked at me, told me I'd be turning 18 soon, and that I needed to find a way to start paying for my own medical treatment. Now she was basically telling me, well, now you're on your own. I understand I'm almost an adult, and I want to be independent. I've been working really hard to get good grades so I can go to college and have a future. I'm not lazy. I've been doing everything I can to put myself in a position where I don't have to depend on anyone forever. I applied to a lot of colleges. I spent months working on my applications, making sure my essays were perfect, getting good recommendation letters. I even joined clubs and extracurricular activities because I knew I had to do more than just get good grades. I knew my condition would make everything harder, so I've been trying to prepare myself to succeed. I was still waiting to hear back from colleges when all this happened, but at that moment, sitting there, listening to my mom tell me I needed to figure out how to pay for my treatment on my own, I felt abandoned. I didn't expect her to magically take care of everything. I know we don't have money, I know it's hard. But hearing her say it like that, as if she was already ready to wash her hands of it, made it feel different. I have no idea what she expects me to do. It's not like I can get a part-time job and suddenly have thousands of dollars for treatments. I know life isn't fair, I know there are people worse off, but it still felt like shit. I had no one to turn to. Grant made it clear I'm not his problem. My mom was worn out, and even though she said she'd try, I could already tell she was giving up. I didn't know what else to do, so I started a fundraiser. I wasn't sure if it would work, but I thought it was worth a shot. I explained my situation as best I could, trying to be honest without seeming like I was begging. I posted it online and shared it on social media. At first, I didn't think it would have much impact. I mean, who would care about some random 17-year-old struggling to pay for his medical treatment? But my friends helped spread the word. They shared it on their accounts and got other people to share it too, and before I knew it, people I didn't even know started donating. I checked it constantly, refreshing the page every few minutes. At first, it was just small donations, $5 here, $10 there, but then larger donations started coming in. Some were from complete strangers who just wanted to help. Some came from people who had been through something similar and knew how hard it was. Some left encouraging messages, saying they hoped I'd pull through and make it to college. And then, somehow, it worked. I ended up raising more money than I ever expected, enough to pay for my treatment and at least 2 years without worrying about medical bills. I sat there, staring at the numbers on the screen, unable to believe it. I was euphoric. The first thing I did was tell my mom. I showed her the fundraiser and how much had been raised, and she was happy for me. She hugged me and told me she was proud. I could tell she was relieved, too, like she didn't have to worry about me as much anymore. I guess my mom must have told Grant about the fundraiser, because not long after, he came to my room. Grant doesn't usually talk to me unless it's to tell me what I'm doing wrong or remind me I'm not his responsibility. So when he knocked on the door and asked to come in, I already knew something weird was up. He sat down and casually asked me about the fundraiser. I told him how I'd started it online, how people had donated, how my friends helped me share it. I even told him how surprised I was that so many strangers wanted to help. And then he dropped it on me. Since you have money now, you should start paying rent. I asked him if he was joking, and he said no. He said it was only fair because now I had money, and it made no sense for me to just sit there in his house, eating his food and using his electricity without contributing anything. That money was for my medical expenses. The whole reason I started that fundraiser in the first place was because my health was at risk. It wasn't like I'd won the lottery or had spare cash to spend. Every dollar in that fundraiser was meant to keep me alive. I told him that. I explained it wasn't extra money, it wasn't some kind of fund savings account. It was literally the only thing keeping me from falling apart. And still, he said it wasn't fair that I had money and was living for free while he paid all the bills. I told him to back off, that it was none of his business, that he had no right to even suggest something like that. I immediately left the room and went straight to my mom. I was furious, and I told her what had happened, word for word. I told her how Grant now wanted to charge me rent just because I'd gotten help from good people online. She sighed and told me she'd talk to him. I don't know how that conversation between my mom and Grant went, but whatever she said to him clearly didn't work. Because when she finally came to talk to me, she wasn't on my side at all. In fact, she sided with Grant. She told me that since she wasn't working, Grant had been paying for everything in the house. The bills, the food, the rent, everything. And that, since it was his money keeping us afloat, it was ultimately his decision whether he wanted to keep supporting me or not. I just stared at her, unable to say a single word. This was my mother, the same one who always told me she'd do whatever it took to take care of me, that she'd never leave me alone, and now she was basically telling me it wasn't her problem anymore. That if Grant didn't want to help me, it was his right. I asked her, so what do you want me to do, because I couldn't use that money for anything else. It was literally for my medical treatment. If I used it to pay Grant, I'd go right back to where I started, unable to afford the one thing I need to stay alive. And she didn't hesitate for a second. She told me to get a job to start contributing somehow. That one way or another, I had to give money to Grant. And then she just walked out of the room. I was sad, but more than anything, I was angry. I hadn't done anything wrong. I wasn't some lazy person waiting to be taken care of. I'd worked hard, I had good grades. I'd done everything I could to prepare for the future. And when I needed help, I found a way to get it. And now, because I'd managed to help myself, they suddenly expected me to hand over that money to start paying rent as if I were just another tenant and not my mom's son. It was like they didn't care that I'd spent years struggling with this condition, like they didn't care about everything I'd done to get ahead. So I decided to call my grandparents. They've always been good to me. After my dad died, they helped me as much as they could. And even though they didn't have much themselves, they used to visit me all the time when I was little. But after my mom married Grant, everything changed. I don't know if it was because my mom wanted to start a new life with her new family, but we stopped seeing them as often. Still, when I told them what was happening, they didn't even think about it. They told me that, if I wanted, I could go live with them. No rent, no ridiculous expectations. Just a place where I wouldn't have to feel like a burden. I told them I'd think about it, but there was really nothing to think about, because barely 5 minutes later, Grant came into my room as if he knew I was planning a way out. He leaned against the doorframe and said, "The rent is due in 3 days." I looked at him and told him I wasn't going to pay rent because I wasn't going to live there anymore. That sentence wiped the smile off his face in a second. He said, "And where exactly do you think you're going?" I didn't hesitate for a second. "My grandparents are picking me up tomorrow. I'll stay with them until I leave for college." He said, "Well, good luck with that. We'll see how long they let a parasite like you stay with them." I didn't answer him. I just started packing my things. The next day, my grandparents parked in front of the house. I had everything ready, everything I could fit into my suitcases. Before leaving, I turned to my mom. She was standing near the kitchen watching me, but she didn't say anything. I don't know if she was sad or feeling guilty or if she even cared. I walked over to her, told her goodbye, hugged her, and then left. Tonight is my first night at my grandparents' house. They've been incredibly kind to me, and I'm very grateful to them. But the pain I feel right now, I can't even put it into words. Has anyone else been through something like this? I'd love to know how you got through it. Update 1. This update is to talk about what's happened since I left my mom's house, which I can say has been a lot, but I'll try to summarize so it's not as long as my first post. So after I left, I moved in with my grandparents, which you already knew because that's the last thing I mentioned before. It was a huge relief, but of course it wasn't that simple. After I left, apparently Grant lost his mind. He wasn't angry because I'd left. He was angry because I left by my own choice and didn't share my money with him. I think he likes me depending on him, needing him in some twisted way. But that didn't happen. So instead, he and my mom started calling my grandparents. At first, it was just my mom saying she missed me and just wanted to talk. But my grandma didn't buy that and told her that if she really cared, she would have defended me from the start. Then Grant got involved. He said my grandparents were using me for my money and that they weren't really concerned about me. He said that since I was their responsibility before turning 18, I should still be their problem, not my grandparents'. But I was never their problem. He just wanted to control me. Luckily, my grandparents put him in his place really quickly. My grandpa told him I'd already decided to live with them and that I wasn't going back to that house. That if he wanted money, he could work for it. A few weeks later, I got a notification from my fundraiser account. Someone was trying to withdraw money. At first, I panicked, thinking maybe I'd been hacked. But when I looked into it, I realized what had happened. My mom had tried to withdraw the money. She still had access to my old bank account, the one we'd set up years ago. I'd already transferred the fundraiser money to a new account when I left, but I guess she thought it would still be there. I called her to ask what was going on. Apparently, she and Grant were having money problems. Grant had been counting on me paying rent, and when I left, suddenly that extra money they thought they'd have disappeared. On top of that, Grant had put some of his own money into the fund for Justin's future, and I guess they were having trouble paying the bills. So their great solution was to steal from me. She just said, "Well, we need the money more than you do. You're living with your grandparents for free, you have enough to pay for your medical treatment and to help us." Again with that, I had to repeat the same thing I told Grant. I need that money for my medical treatment. And you know what she answered? "Maybe you should have paid rent like a normal adult and we wouldn't be in this mess." That's when I cut her off completely. I blocked her, my grandparents blocked her, and even my grandparents' cat blocked her. Everyone in that house had blocked her. I changed all my passwords as a security measure, and I won't use that account from now on. Last week, I found out I was accepted into one of the colleges I applied to. Not only that, I also got a partial scholarship that will cover part of the tuition. With the fundraiser money and a job, I can pay for my medical treatment and at least 2 years of college without worrying too much. But here's the best part. My dad's side of the family, who I hadn't had much contact with, found out about everything that happened. My Aunt Linda, my dad's sister, contacted me after my fundraiser went viral in our town. She told me that she and my cousins had no idea what I was going through. She offered to help me pay for college. At first, I felt guilty about accepting, but she told me my dad would have wanted that. He left some money when he passed away, and although my mom kept most of it, there was a small amount in an account meant for me, money my mom never told me about. So now my aunt is helping me access that money, and between that, the fundraiser, and the scholarship, I won't have to worry about college or my medical bills for a long time. For the first time in a long time, I really feel like I have a future. Edit, for those asking why my stepfather doesn't just use Justin's money, that's a question for him, but I think it's because he doesn't want to ruin his future. But mine, since I'm a defective person, wouldn't be a problem. Update 2, it's been a few weeks since my last update, and I didn't know if there would be another update or not. All the problems were relatively resolved. I said, it's time to start planning my life and relax a little, but life can't be that easy. It has to fuck you over with a chronic illness and then keep fucking with you so you're not at peace. Some new things happened, and I felt I owed one last part to all the people who supported me to tell how everything ended. So after cutting off the relationship with my mom and my grandparents doing the same, the normal thing would be for them to look for someone else to bother. But a few weeks ago, my mom showed up at my grandparents' house unannounced. I wasn't home at the time. I had gone out to do some things. My grandpa was the one who opened the door, and let's just say he wasn't very happy to see her. She started crying immediately, saying she missed me, that she just wanted to talk, that I was her baby and she wanted to fix things. My grandpa asked her directly, "Are you here because you love your son or because you ran out of money?" She didn't answer. That was all he needed to hear. He told her I didn't want to see her and shut the door in her face. When I got home, my grandma told me everything, but I didn't feel too bad about her being treated that way. Yes, she's my mom, but she didn't seem to mind at all that I was kicked out of her house. I didn't call her. But then she sent me a very long message from another number saying they were in a very complicated situation. Grant had been hiding debts, a lot of them. He had taken out loans under her name to pay for Justin's college, but he told my mom he was paying for everything out of his own pocket. Meanwhile, my mom had given him most of the money my dad left her. That money he left for us no longer existed. It's fine, I understand. It wasn't just money for me, but it was the money he left to help us, and she gave it to Grant. And Grant used that to pay off debts. I didn't respond to that message, and my mom started flooding my phone with calls. She texted me, she sent me emails. Suddenly, she missed me again. Suddenly, she wanted to start over. I just ignored her, but she must have followed me from my grandparents' house to a nearby cafe, because after I ordered, she was standing behind me. She started crying as soon as she saw me, saying she was sorry, that she didn't know what Grant was doing, that she thought she was making the right decisions. She told me she regretted everything, that she wished she had had the courage to defend me, but that Grant was very controlling, that she didn't realize how much she had hurt me, and that she hoped I understood it was also because of Grant. I asked her one question: if you hadn't found out about Grant's debts, would you have ever looked for me to apologize? Would you have missed me? She told me she always missed me, but that things were difficult at home with Grant. That answer was all I needed. I told her I didn't hate her, but I didn't trust her either. That choosing Grant over her son sends a clear and strong message. There's no need to even read between the lines, it's crystal clear. Update 3, I just wanted to give one last update. My life has changed a lot, mainly for the better, although there are still some negative things. I started college, which has been great, but the part where I had to look for where to continue my treatment, not so much. I was used to my doctors and the places I went to, but it's just been an adjustment period. I also found a part-time job, which means I can make the fundraiser money and what my father left for me last longer. I'm very careful with my expenses. I keep everything as simple as possible and only use what I earn for daily needs like food, textbooks, and small personal expenses. The fundraiser money is exclusively for my medical expenses. I don't want to be in a position like the one I lived through at my mother and stepfather's house ever again. For those who have asked why I didn't sue my mom for my father's money, it's not like my father left it exclusively for me. It was money he left so we could survive without him. Only my mom used it on someone who doesn't deserve to survive. If she hadn't done that, she probably wouldn't be in as many financial problems as she is now. Keep in mind that the last time I spoke with her, they were busy trying to figure out how to pay their bills. So much so that I don't know how it is that she still hasn't divorced Grant. But if she supported him so much before, I think she should sync with him. For those asking if my grandparents couldn't pay for the treatment or help me with something, well, I think they've already helped enough by letting me stay with them. There's nothing more I can ask of them because I know they've given more than they can give. When I graduate and earn enough money to cover my medical, housing, and food expenses, the first thing I'll do is send them money. I won't save for a car or for a trip. I'll send them money so they can have a more comfortable life as elderly people. Something I'm sure I won't do for my mother in her old age. I think that might sound ungrateful because she paid for my treatment up to this point. But if we're being honest here, it was the least she could do after wasting the money with Grant. And before I forget, my father's family isn't exactly rich either. They're not poor, but I'm not close enough to them to ask for such a big favor. The fact that they still kept my father's money, set aside especially for me, and didn't spend it themselves is enough. What did surprise me was a call from Justin, my stepbrother. We were never particularly close. He was already in college when all the drama with Grant and my mom happened, and I thought he either didn't care or just didn't want to get involved. He just apologized. He told me he had no idea what was going on. He knew his dad could be strict, but he couldn't imagine how badly they were treating me. He said if he had known, he would have spoken up. I told him it wasn't his fault. He didn't do anything wrong, and I don't hold any grudge against him. He told me that even though things ended badly between me and his family, he wishes me the best and that, if I ever need anything, help, advice, or just someone to talk to about college, I can count on him. I guess I'll take him up on his offer of help because it never hurts to be well prepared in college. So yes, that's how things are. Thank you all for listening to my story and for all the support. I'll always be grateful. Whether I post again will depend on if there's anything new to tell or if this is it. Update 4. Thanks to those who have been concerned about me, about my health, and about how I'm doing in college. I can say I'm doing well. I'm not at the top of my class, but I'm striving to maintain good grades. The part-time job helps and allows me not to touch too much of the fundraiser money or what my father left me, although the pay is modest and I still have to take money from there. I hope it lasts until I finish studying. During this time, I've had some contact with Justin, my stepfather's son. We've been talking about college and about some advice he could give me. He was also the one who informed me that my mother and Grant are getting divorced. I already knew the reason, but Justin thinks that dropping out of college also contributed to the breakup. A couple of months ago, while we were talking, he told me he was thinking of leaving college because he wasn't sure it was what he really wanted. He had always had other aspirations, but Grant constantly pressured him to study. And even though he had just over a year left to finish, he decided to drop everything and follow what he felt was his true path. His father didn't like that at all, especially after having spent so much money on his education. The situation created enough tension in their marriage for my mother to ask him for a divorce. And that was it. There's no more mystery than that. Justin invited me to join his adventure, but I told him I preferred to keep studying. At least in my case, it's a choice, not an obligation. I fought too hard to get here, so I'm not going to drop out. Yes, my mother contacted me a few weeks ago, but my opinion of her doesn't change just because she's no longer with Grant. She agreed to see me as a bad investment, one that in Grant's eyes wasn't worth it. So I could say the same about her now. They both ended their marriage penniless and without affection because it's not like Justin maintains a good relationship with his father. At least not after contacting me. And it's not like I've ever actively sought revenge against them. I've just taken care of myself and karma has done the rest.